Good evening. This is the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals public meeting for 3/23/2015. Before we begin, I would ask that all participants refrain from use of cell phones or computers in the meeting hall. Please turn them off or put them on vibrate. If you wish to speak in front of the board this evening in favor or opposition, please speak from the podium through the chair and sign in respectively. First order of business under new business is EB 2015-01 for a variance at 21 Cadell Ave. The applicant is seeking variance approval to construct a single-family with an associated extension of a right-of-way. The petitioner is seeking relief under section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, Mr. Flood.
Members of the board, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing Berkeley Development, LLC. I'm sure you all have received a copy of the new site plan that was prepared showing the 2 parking spaces beside the house, along with the retaining wall in the rear, along with the elevations of the house that we propose to construct on the lot. I don't know how you want to proceed, Mr. Chairman, because we discussed a lot last meeting, but if you want me to just go in for a few things that I pointed out. I know there was some more communication from the fire department regarding the access to the property. And as I stated at the last meeting, Deputy Chief Gilligan had received our plans and had reviewed our plans, and he had approved them. I mean, the form that you got said it was approved. And he further stated, and I quote him, it says, "The fire department access will not be compromised by this new house." I guess the plans were then further reviewed by Deputy Chief Quinlan, and he further stated the access to the new structure for firefighting from Cadell Avenue would not be a problem. I'm not denying that Cadell Avenue is a very narrow road, but as Deputy Chief Quinlan said, that's nothing unusual to the city of Lowell. If you look across the street, right from the site, Quimby Ave on the other side of Chelmsford Street, it's about the same width as this one. So narrow streets are something that's common in the city, especially if they were built many, many years ago. As I indicated last time, and as I attached to my petition, Cadell Avenue was originally constructed in 1916. I gave you a plan that showed the 2 houses presently on Cadell Avenue, plus right next door there was a piece of property, which is the piece that my client now owns. So Cadell Avenue was constructed prior to 1916, prior to zoning, prior to anything in the city of Lowell. But besides the 2 existing homes on Cadell Avenue, the roadway is also used by many other residents. The home at 15 Crescent Street and the home at 19 Crescent Street come around the corner onto Cadell Avenue to get into their parking space. Also, the building at 28 Houghton Street, well, really there are 2 buildings, one in the front and one in the back. If you go in the back building, there are 4 spaces, and those people use it. So with the proposed development, we're proposing the construction of a T for a turnaround for cars, trucks, whatever goes up the street, which you don't have now, which I think is an improvement to the neighborhood. The property zone, 2-family, we're proposing a single residential home. And with the exception of the fact that Cadell Avenue is not a public way, we meet all other zoning dimensional requirements in a TTF zone. A lot is over 10,000 square feet. The frontage on that roadway is 152 feet when it's 70 required. All the setbacks, the size of the lot, we meet them all. So the only variance we're asking has to do with the roadway, which has been in existence, was there, everyone else uses it, and I think we have a right to use it. And what we're doing is we're building a single-family home, which in our opinion will improve the neighborhood. I'm going to get. I have some more handouts this week. What that package contains is a copy of the City of Lowell Assessors map for the whole area. There are a bunch of pictures that shows the progression of the development of this site from when they first bought it, where it was all tree lined, and what it is today. And the last picture, for those of you who might not have been up there, it's a picture of 28 Houghton Street, which shows the building in the back that has those parking spaces. So, I mean, I think what we're asking for is reasonable. It's going to improve Cadell Avenue by constructing that turnaround so cars can turn around and get in and out. As far as parking concerned, it's a private way. People don't have the right to park on that street and block any of the rights that the other people on the street have. So I don't think that's a problem. And as the fire department says, they said they might be delayed in getting there, but we've taken the deputy chief's suggestion, and we would accept the condition of approval. We sprinkle the house, which would take care of that fire situation. So we're here to answer any questions, but I think it's a reasonable use for that lot. If we don't build it, what's going to happen to it? They're paying taxes on it, and the construction does conform with zoning. So we're here to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. This time, I'd like to open up to a public hearing. Those wishing to speak in favor, in favor, in favor. That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition. Prior to speaking in opposition, I want to make note for the record, we are in receipt of a petition signed by 27 residents petitioning opposition to this petition. You may proceed, sir. Your name?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Daly. I'm at 14 Houghton Street in Lowell, and we're in here for opposition. I have copies of the petition.
Sir, we're in receipt of the entire package. Thank you, yes. They were provided. Thank you.
As you can see, we have petitions from the neighbors in the area. I have a few items I'd like to bring up. One, the first thing is the building does not have proper frontage. The second, as you know, the residents have signed a petition. The third, it's a little bit in rebuttal. I have been in contact with the Lowell Fire Department Prevention and Deputy Chief Quinlan, and he reports, I have 4 things that he has said to me, and I'm quoting. The first is very difficult to turn from Crescent Street with an engine, and almost impossible with a ladder truck. Second, would have to walk in ladders and hoses, thus delaying arrival. Third, a parked vehicle on Cadell Ave would prevent fire, ambulance, or emergency vehicles to access any or this new home that's on the street. 4, you would have to have no parking on Crescent at Cadell and on Cadell Ave to make sure emergency vehicles can access that street. My next item is recent legislation by the City Council regarding Livingston Street and others that we've seen in the paper regarding Andover Street was supposed to stop this type of construction, overcrowding land like what they're trying to do here. Another thing, counsel for the contractors, Mr. Flood said last meeting that people like to use Cadell Ave as a shortcut to get to Houghton Street. Obviously, those people have no idea how big Cadell Ave is. There's one entrance from Crescent and one exit, the same one you just come in. You have to drive up and back out. It's the only way you can get in and out of Cadell Ave. There's no shortcuts. You can't get from Crescent to Chelmsford, from Cadell to Chelmsford or Cadell to Houghton. It's impossible. You can't do it. I also know that the board, the board is here to please the contractors, but the board also has to please the residents We live there. The contractors and the lawyers don't. It's our neighborhood. We don't want it. And my last thing would be to ask the board to deny this variance. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? Any others wish to speak in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Nancy Judge, and I reside at 28 Foss Street, and I am also the chair of the Highlands Neighborhood Association. And I am here tonight representing the residents and the neighbors on and near Cadell Avenue off of Crescent Street in the Highlands area. Apparently, you did get the packet that I had emailed to Judith on Friday. And I'm hoping that you've all had a chance to go through it. So therefore, and as Mr. Daly said, the Deputy Quinlan from the Lowell Fire Department did say how difficult it would be to make the turn on Crescent Street. So I'm not going to repeat all of that. Putting one more house on that street would, I have to laugh. If you guys have taken a ride down Cadell Street, it's hilarious why anyone would want to put another house there. I don't even think the street is 12 feet wide. Might be, not sure. As it is, the neighbors on Cadell Ave are forced to park on Crescent, Holton, Phelan, Blotchett, Emery Street. Putting one more house would just create havoc to an already stressed neighborhood. I hope that you have taken the time to visit Cadell Avenue, because if you did, I can't imagine you approving this variance. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me and some of the neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Melissa Gridley. I'm a resident of 17 Cadell Ave with Jeffrey Holman, who wasn't able to make it. What I just wanted to say was a lot of reiteration of whatever people have already said. Being a resident on Cadell Ave, just to say that it is a very small street. We were told at the last meeting that it was 15 feet wide, so we just tried to measure it just to check. From our front step to the edge of the road is 12 and a half feet. If you include a little bit of the dirt path between the fence and the road, maybe it's 14 feet. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that, to stress how narrow this road is. Literally, you do drive it down, and the only way to get out other than backing into somebody's driveway and turning around is to back out. So we do get trash pickup. The trash pickup does it the same thing. They drive down, they back up. We have a miniature plow that comes by, they drive down, they back up. God forbid we ever had a fire there. I really don't know how a fire truck would get onto that road, and I don't know how more than one fire truck would be able to access any of the street, the houses on the end there, us being one of them. So for a safety standpoint, I would be very concerned about that. In terms of overcrowding, literally house next to house on Cadell Ave, there's no green space, there's no area in between besides concrete between houses, other than possibly fences and driveways. That's all that you can see. I'm not sure how adding another house into that block would improve our neighborhood. I'm kind of wondering how that would help us, other than overcrowding our area. Our concerns are previously stated by other people as well, so we're hoping that it does not pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, ma'am, could you just trouble you to sign in, please? Just a reminder, if all petitioners sign in for public record, we'd appreciate that. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Good evening.
My name is Anne Marie Page. I am the Vice President of the Citywide Neighborhood Council. I reside at 26 Fremont Street in Lowell, and I have been asked to come here to help to support the neighbors that live on this street. I do have several questions. I do hope you can answer them for the people that are at home watching this and that were unable to be here tonight. Oops, it's alive. Okay, 21 Cadell Ave. The petitioner is seeking relief from Section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance. Could you give us a little Reader's Digest version of Section 5.1 of the zoning ordinance? So in other words, what is it that they don't have that they need a variance on?
Certainly. Judy?
Section 5.1 is a description of all of the zoning districts in the city and of all the dimensional requirements for the zoning in the city. So for this particular property, they need a variance on frontage.
Frontage. Okay. And also, is this an owner-occupied piece of property? When the house is built, like, I'm going to build a house, this is my house, I'm going to build it, and I'm going to own it, and I'm going to live in it? Or is it a developer building a house, and then he's going to sell it, and somebody else is going to live in it?
Mr. Flood?
Okay, thank you kindly. Those were the questions that were asked that we didn't have an answer for. And if I was a developer and I was going to build a house and there was a little bit of a conflict, I think I would have had a sit-down meeting with the neighbors and try to answer everybody's questions to see if it was a good idea or not. The part that makes everybody very nervous here, we know crowded, and Lowell has a lot of crowded. And we know Lowell has a lot of history, but many years ago, not every family had a car, ever mind 2 or 3 of them. The part that makes everybody very nervous here is the part where it is difficult to get a fire truck down that street. I'm assuming, even though one should never assume, that all of you have gone over there and taken a look at the street. And the snow is an exception, we understand that. But in the middle of July, can that fire truck get down that street? And when somebody said, well, if there was a car parked or something, they would have trouble. They'd have to walk in the ladders and the hoses. I hope you're kidding me, right? The other part was, now, if there's a parked automobile on Cadell Avenue, no trucks, no fire vehicle would be able to get in. That was, taking this from notes of a Deputy Chief Quinlan. And like I said, I would not pass judgment on snowbanks right now because hopefully this won't happen for a long, long time. But that seems to be everyone's concern. Very cramped, very crowded street. And the fact that possibly a fire truck or ladder could not get down my street would make me very, very nervous. So I really want you to give this some serious thought. Maybe this isn't the right place. Maybe this developer could find a better place, but it would make me very nervous. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any others wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition. That portion of the public hearing is now closed. This time I'd like to open up to the board. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Attorney Flood. I know it's the second time we're back here. I believe the first time I asked you the same question, and I'm ask you again. Was there any meeting between now and the last meeting with any of the neighbors or any of the neighborhood associations or any of the other?
I think Mr. Miller made a call. I don't know if he got a return call.
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Daly. I don't know any of the other people.
Why don't you come up, Mr.
So if you could just address from the podium, state your name and sign in for the record.
Yeah. Jeff Miller with Berkeley Development from Chelmsford, Mass. I talked to, the only person I knew of was Mr. Daly. He called our office and hung up or something. That's the only way I got his number. I don't know how to reach out to get any of these other people, but I'm there every day. If anybody wanted to come and see me, I'm there every day, and my phone number's on the front of the houses, so.
Okay. Understandable, but knowing that at the last meeting, we had all this opposition from
I wouldn't
neighbors
know
and
who to
whatnot.
call. Right.
Did you reach out, or Attorney Flood, or, I understand if Mr. Daly or someone else reached out
Yeah,
to you?
I called the
you did.
gentleman that's ahead of all this.
Okay,
So, and I told him he has my phone number. If anybody has any questions they need anything from me, to call me. I can answer the phone 24 hours.
okay. Because I know it was urged at the last meeting, and it just seems that we had two sides butting heads and trying to see if there's anything, any appeasement that could be made, or
Right.
any other concerns that could be laid to rest. And
But I think I addressed it with the sprinkling the house.
I understand, but now that's bringing me to my next question.
That seems to be
is-
the only thing I hear is the fire trucks.
Now that we have an email from Deputy Chief Quinlan, I mean, was there any other further discussion with the fire department after his comments as far as what their concerns are? I mean, it seems to be coming back here relying upon, well, they signed off on it last time. Yeah, we got these comments, but we're relying on what they said the last time. Has there been any
Their
communication
concerns are
with them?
turning around at Crescent Street. They said the truck a rubbish truck goes up and down that road once a week, every week, 52 weeks a year, picking up. It's bigger than, the same size as a fire truck. His concerns are the turning in from Crescent Street, which sounds like it's a city concern with parking. The people are parking on Crescent Street, and they should be parking in their driveways. But that's a traffic issue. You know, it's,
I
if
understand, I
there was a
agree.
fire on Quimby and there was a car parked on it, the fire truck's not, if there's two cars parked on Plain Street, a fire truck's gonna have, it's a question of traffic and parking.
Understandable, but actually,
Right.
really, it's a safety issue as well, because obviously, even though Deputy Chief Quinlan has made comments that said, yeah, we can get access to it, it looks like they have some concerns as well. It's going to, as part
Well,
as
he
delays,
concurred with-
and part of getting people down there.
Right.
Which really, like, and I went down there again this afternoon, and even I'm like,
Right, I'm enhancing it though. I'm out of our pocket, we're enhancing it by putting a turnaround in there, any size they wanted. We started off with a large turnaround, and then DPD told us they'd rather have us shrink it down. So the plan you guys have shows the smaller version, the larger version, which now people can get in there and turn around. You couldn't do that before. And if we don't build a house there and we put the fence down, it's gonna be the same narrow road. And any of the houses that are on there, including the houses from Houghton Street that do access Cadell Ave to get to their property, they're gonna have a problem there too. And we're enhancing what isn't there. And we're gonna sprinkle the house. So that house is off the map for worried about fire trucks and ladders and stuff. And anybody that's dispatching fire, and if anybody knows that, a dispatcher would know not to send a ladder truck down to Cadell or 55% of the streets in Lowell. But that's all I'm answering to that.
okay.
Thanks.
I'm just, again, it just seems to me that, I understand efforts have been trying to be made to try to reconcile all the concerns of the neighbors to not. Not that there wasn't, no, I mean, I would be more comfortable if the parties got together and tried to see if any of these concerns would be addressed between the neighborhoods, the neighborhood association, and your client, Mr. Attorney Flood.
Right, if
That would make me feel a lot more better about this, but right now,
If you're suggesting that, Mr. Callen, be willing to do that. We could put this over to your next meeting. We'll sit down with them to see if we can come to some happy medium, because we're trying to improve it. And, you know, the deputy chief also said, these are not new issues to the city with the traffic. He said there are many streets in Lowell have the same situation. And he said the houses currently on Cadell have been living with it for many years. But he also said with a new code compliant house, they wouldn't have any trouble fighting it, and he suggested that we sprinkle it. So we've agreed to do that. I mean, and the turnaround is going to improve that whole neighborhood. But if you would like us to sit down with a representative of the neighborhood, be glad to do it and try to come back with some resolution, if at all possible, and bring it to the board.
I'll wait to hear the rest of my board, but my remembrance was that Board Member Peck had recommended that to you last hearing, and
I don't remember.
it doesn't seem to be anything done, but I'll wait to hear from the rest of the board first. I mean, that's my concerns, and it would be a suggestion of mine at this point, but that's my concern at this point. So, but I'll wait to hear from the rest of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, or a couple of comments, I guess. My concerns still lie in although I agree with both what you are saying as far as the issues of traffic and the narrow street and the issue of fire access and people parking there is a concern. It's a pre-existing concern. So this, one additional house is just going to add to a somewhat crowded situation. I'm turning back to a couple of the original questions or thoughts I had a couple of weeks ago, and that is the issue just in general of putting this house on this lot, and where it's, I think, a 70-foot frontage, 70 feet of frontage is required under the zoning, and you have 19 and a half
No, we have 152.
of frontage.
152 frontage.
Where, can you show me that on the updated plans, or?
I think you got 15-foot curb cut for the driveway. It's 152 feet. That whole lot is 152 feet long. All is required is 70.
Looks like I can't, on the updated plans, and because I'm trying to go paperless on the screen
one.
here.
But the frontage is 152. 70 is
Thank-
required, 7,000 square feet is required. We've got 10,333, so.
So I guess just to go back to that issue, thank you for correcting me on the number, as I'm trying to read it on the screen here, but the question or concerns I still have are related to this, this house on this lot. I know we did get an update with the driveway and the plan showing the retaining wall, but I'm still just, all the issues that have been presented aside, which really aren't relevant to the variance request, that's where I'm stuck, so.
What are what issues you're talking about?
Well, I mean, I think the request for the variance is, I'm assuming, although there hasn't really been any mention of the hardship,
Yeah,
and then whether or not the relief that's granted would be a detriment to the neighborhood, to the public good.
I think I addressed that last week. I mean, we have the required frontage, we have all of the dimensional requirements, but we don't have a public way. That's the only reason it's on a private way. And if everyone else has the right to use it, and he doesn't have the right to use it, isn't that a hardship? And we are conforming with all aspects of zoning required in a TTF zone. We could have put a two-family in there, but we didn't. We're putting the most restrictive in there, and a single-family home shouldn't cause any more problems down there, and I think the fire chief said that. So, I mean, I thought that was the big concern, the fire. And I think by sprinkling it, there shouldn't be a problem. But we are meeting all more restrictive zoning than there would be in there. TTF doesn't require the square footage and the frontage that we've got, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Judy a question or two, if I could. So there's a street relatively close by here in the Highlands called Quimby.
It's right across the street.
It is very close.
Yeah.
It is very close. That I went out and measured, and I found that the dimension between the granite curb cut on Chelmsford Street was 12 feet, 2.5 inches. And the granite curb cut on Cadwell is 12 feet and a half. So it's slightly different, but still
Similar.
marginal dimension. Quimby, though, I think is an accepted street.
That I don't know. I couldn't tell you whether
And-
it is or not.
And Cadwell, and they were probably done around the same time. There's a lot of streets in the city that are this 12-foot-ish dimension. There's a lot of streets in the city that are this 12-foot-ish dimension. In Centerville, in the Acre, and in the Highlands, and in Lower.
Over there, too. Abbott Street off Lawrence Street, it's the same way.
I understand. So there's a number of these streets that exist that have taxpayers in the city living in residences that are protected by the fire department, that are monitored by the police department, that have ambulance available to them for emergencies, that have trash pickup, that have plowing on these streets that are 12-ish feet wide. So it seems to be a doable scenario for a lot. In fact, the residents that currently exist there are allowed to have an occupied residence and to have the services that the city provides. Fire. In fact, there's a house, I think it's a two-family property. It seems to be at 28 Houghton.
I gave you a picture of that.
And that doesn't seem to have any access except from Cadwell Ave. As far as the property, it seems to have trash pickup on Cadwell, and that property is beyond the driveway and this house that's in question. And that's allowed to be a taxed residence that has an occupancy permit, that's serviced by the fire department, that's serviced by the police department, that's serviced by the emergency apparatus, that's accepted for people to have residence. And this lot exceeds zoning. It's not trying to cram a house in a neighborhood that doesn't allow for, or that we're looking for a discrepancy in the size of the lot. We're actually exceeding the frontage on this street that would be accepted normally if, I don't know why it's not accepted, because it seems in every aspect it's accepted except in actual documentation, because the city allows residences there to be accessed and we service them. So I'm just questioning how it's not accepted. How is it not accepted? What criteria determines whether a street like Quimby is accepted and this street isn't? And they're right across from each other, basically.
Again, I don't know exactly which streets are accepted and which are not accepted. The question I would have for the board and for Mr. Flood would be, if there is adequate frontage, then what is the purpose of the actual application? If this lot is a buildable lot, why is there a petition before the board for a variance? And I would offer that as a little bit of history. There was an A&R that was signed in 2013 that designated this lot as an unbuildable lot. Unbuildable because it did not have adequate frontage, as defined by 40A, this state law saying you have to have adequate frontage for your lot. And at that time, it was determined that it did not have adequate frontage, and it was marked as an unbuildable lot. And I was not here at the time, but I would, just according to my colleagues, the applicant was told that he could divide the lot into two buildable lots with access on Chelmsford Street. The applicant preferred to divide it into three and created the existing hardship that he has now by dividing it into three lots with the third lot on Cadell without adequate frontage. So the issue with frontage is it's a thorny issue. It's not a straightforward issue. There's many different definitions of frontage. If it's not paved, if it's in this case, there's not 150 feet of paved frontage. There needs to be improvements to the road to make it adequate for frontage. And that was the reason that I'm assuming, and again, I'm just going by the records, I was not here on the staff at the time, that was the reason that it was designated as not a buildable lot on the A&R that was approved in 2013.
Mr. Miller met with Aaron Clausen when this was signed, and maybe Mr. Miller can tell you just what Aaron Clausen told him. The reason we don't have frontage, it has to be on a public way, and it's not a public way. It has never been accepted by the city. And it is paved. The whole street, it's paved in front of this lot.
I agree with you, and I wish it was clearer as to why city approves some streets that have the same criteria as this one and doesn't determine this one a public way. I don't know what that is all about.
I think you'll be surprised that throughout the city, there are a lot of streets that have not been accepted. Long Meadow Drive over in Belvedere has never been accepted. I had the same issue when I went in with an A&R plan there. We had to go back and get all the engineering. So there's a lot of that, Mr. McCarthy, in the city. And that's why we're here, because it's not accepted.
Okay. I'm not sure if you meet the criteria for a variance, though. And so I'm struggling with that, because certainly there's a lot of residents here that are neighbors that feel unsafe about this property being granted a variance. So the detriment to public good seems to be in jeopardy if you have this many people here speaking out that it's potentially a detriment to their public good, and they're the public.
There's
So I'm
another-
having a struggle with that part of the variance.
Well, the answer to that is it's because of the fire that they're all talking about. The fire department says if it's sprinkled, they'd like to have it sprinkled. They said the problem exists today for the existing homes. We're not causing any more problems.
It may be more than that. It may be the fact that in 2015, 12-foot wide streets aren't deemed reasonable anymore, and we shouldn't continue putting residences on streets that are that narrow. I kind of read it more as that, is that I think that people today are saying, enough's enough with the narrow streets. Let's try to build where it's safe. Even though we're putting sprinkler systems in the house, it's still a narrow street,
There's no question it's a narrow
and you
street.
can't change that.
No, but we're trying to help it by putting that T at the end so everyone can turn around.
I agree.
I know you
You've done a world of good for the residents that exist on that condition by giving them a turnaround for vehicles like safety apparatuses or fire trucks, which they don't have today. And there's a number of residences in that condition that won't have this improvement if you don't do it.
I'm sure the trash trucks go up and back down. I mean,
But
So
I
give them a
still
chance
see
to turn
too
around.
many residents here concerned about public good, and that's part of the variance process,
That's
in my
right.
opinion. So I'm struggling with that particular part here, so.
Mm-hmm.
And Judy, I just don't get it, why these streets some were granted and some aren't, but I wish there was a clear answer there. All right, that's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Van?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I do appreciate all the documents and the site plan elevations, retaining wall, all the updates that you provided. And I'm also glad to hear that your clients would be happy to install a sprinkler system. I think I'm in agreement with my colleagues where it's, I think it's, and this is my opinion, it's our responsibility to try to balance out, the development side and the community side. And I think, I did suggest to you that you should meet with the neighborhoods, all the parties involved, just to try to find some kind of resolution or conclusion. I think that, you do meet some of the criteria for the variance, but I think in other aspects you don't. So in my opinion, I think earlier, I think you stated that you would be open to, postponing this meeting and meeting representatives of the neighborhood or the association. I think that'd be a great alternative if you would like to do that. I mean, it's up to you, but overall, I think, like some of my colleagues, I do have concerns with this project, and I do agree that I think improving the road, the street or the turnaround would be great, but there's so many people in opposition. I think I don't think it would be a good thing to try to jam things in and rush through this. So those are just my thoughts, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Van. At this time, I'd like to just to put on public record, the actual communication we did receive from the fire department, there are notes and quotes and things that are being bound about, which in fairness is not a public document, and we are in receipt of an email from Deputy Garrett J. Quinlan on Friday, March 20th, 2015 at 10 a.m., and he replies, Joe, I concur with D.C. Gilligan's comment that access to the new structure for firefighting from Cadell Ave would not be a problem. However, the plans submitted to me only show a small area around the project. Due to the complaint, I have conducted an on-site review. I would offer the following comments. Access to the building is not a problem once we arrive at the address. In fact, it will probably be the easiest building on the street to operate at. The problem lies in getting to the address. Cadell Ave is only 15 feet wide. Current codes call for 20 feet for fire department apparatus access. I feel that our apparatus can get down the street, but at a reduced pace, thus increasing response time to the incident. If there are any cars parked on the street or other obstacles, we will be blocked. Widening the road would help. The biggest problem we have is getting onto Cadell Ave from Crescent Street, which is not shown on the plan I received. With the narrowness of Cadell Ave, our vehicles need to be almost at 90 degrees across Crescent Street upon entering Cadell. With cars parked on Crescent Street in the area of Cadell or snowbanks there, it would probably require between a 3 and 5 foot turn for an engine to get into the street. A ladder truck may not be able to get in until cars are moved. These issues will delay firefighting activities. Parking restrictions in these areas might alleviate these problems. These are not new issues in the cities. These are many streets in Lowell that have the same situation. The houses currently on Cadell Ave have had them right along. I do not feel that a new code-compliant, single-family home as pictured in the drawings possess any increased fire danger to the neighborhood. The future occupants should probably be made aware of the possibility of delayed fire department responses times to this structure for the reasons cited above. Installation of approved automatic sprinkler system would benefit this house and may be required. So I quite clearly read that into the record, just to clarify what has been issued as a statement from Deputy Quinlan as a memorandum through the city email. That being said, Mr. Chairman, you have made comments that in light of some of the concerns here tonight and some of the comments made by the board as it relates to the public good, would you like to speak on that at this point?
In what respect, in the public good?
No, are you looking, you said you may look to speak with somebody, or did you want to continue as?
Well, is that what you'd like to do? I think that's what they'd be agreeable to do.
Okay.
The attempt, but if we had a name of who we should contact to do that, Mr. Miller would be glad to do it. He's on site every day. He's building those 2 houses on Chelmsford Street, so they're there every day, so it's not a problem.
He has made that aware on public record that he has been on site.
Yeah.
Perhaps because there is a variation of residents with the 27 there. I don't know if you'd like to we could take 1 minute, and you could concur with the people from the resident, if you would like to set a point person.
I think I think Mr. Miller would meet with them, and I don't know who on the other side, but
Okay.
we're willing to do that, and if we can't resolve it, then, probably take other further steps or something. I don't know, but that's his decision.
Okay. Judy?
Yeah, I guess, getting back to the issue of the public way and why certain streets are accepted and others aren't, that's an engineering decision. It's in the engineering department. That's where they make those decisions, and they do have their complete list as to, which streets are public and which aren't. And the only thing I can say is Cadell probably does not meet the standards of having the sufficient width to be a public way, because as you heard from one of the residents here tonight, there's some spots where that pavement is literally it's down to 12 feet. So I'm not even sure exactly what the standards are. In Mr. Quinlan's email, he mentioned that the fire department likes to have 20 feet. In some communities, it's 18 feet. Certainly from mirror to mirror, a fire truck is a lot wider than 12 feet. So that's the only rationale that I can think of for the Department of Engineering not to have accepted Cadell as a public way, in that it doesn't meet the width required, the pavement does not meet the width, and that there's, properties that prevent it from meeting that width. As to whether other streets in the same condition are public or not, again, because I don't have the list, I couldn't answer that question.
I can tell you it's not. Before we even came in here, I spoke with Ronnie Lebrecq of the engineering department. He's now retired, but he said, do a turnaround at the end, and that should take care of any issues they have, but it's not accepted. That was his suggestion, that we do that, so.
Dennis?
Thank you for that, Judy. But I do believe there are many, many 12-foot wide accepted streets in the city. And it's 12 feet at the curb cut where there are radius granite pieces placed by the city going into that street, which says to me the city fully intended that not to be a driveway for a private house. The city went and invested in radius granite at 12 feet wide, just as it did on Quimby. So that seems to me that in 1915, everyone intended that to be a place for us to have residences that were safe and taxpayers that would help the city. And I don't understand how it's not considered a public way today when so many others are. And that's all I'm looking for, some kind of answer as to how that criteria is developed, because I think there are some even narrower in the city that are public ways.
Well, it's interesting because the city,
Anyway,
they plow it, they maintain it, they pick up trash there, but according to the engineers, has not been accepted.
So moving forward, you'd like to move to the next meeting?
I would say that, right? Yeah.
Okay. So presently, our next meeting is April 13, 2015. Is that acceptable?
Certainly is. Could be here anyways.
Moving forward, may I have a motion?
through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2015-001 for a variance, applicant Berkeley Development for 21 Cadwell Ave, for a continuance to April 13th.
May I have a second?
I second the motion.
Roll call?
Chairman Perrin,
Approved condition to move to April 13, 2015.
Member Peck,
Continue to April 13th.
Member Paglia,
Continue to April 13th.
Member McCarthy,
Continue to April 13th.
Member Callahan.
Continue to April 13th.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you. Moving on to other new business, bringing forward ZB 2015-002 for a special permit and variance at 21 Nottingham Street. We have a communication requesting a continuance. Judy, was there a respected date for that continuance?
Is that the Hunt Real Estate?
Correct.
We're asking
Correct.
for continuance. We,
Yet the request is to continue it until April
April
15th?
13th.
13th, rather.
Yeah. There's a new traffic engineer in the city, so we had a traffic study done from our traffic engineer, and they're meeting this Wednesday to discuss the traffic situation, and we're in front of the planning board next Monday, so hopefully we'll get that issue resolved, and as you know, you people can't act until the planning board acts anyway, so we're asking for that continuance. That's your next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Flood. That being said, may I have a motion, please? Yes, sir.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2015-002 for a special permit and variance for 21 Nottingham Street to be continued to April 13th.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Perrin,
Approve continuance to April 13, 2015.
Member Peck,
Continue to April 13th.
Member Paglia,
Continue to April 13th.
Member McCarthy,
Continue to April 13th.
and Member Callahan.
Continue to April 13th.
Thank you. You've been continued to April 13, 2015.
You did.
Moving on, matter before us on the new business, ZB 2014-003 for a special permit at 812 Gorham Street. Good evening, sir.
Hi, my name is Ed Spinney from Sign Art Incorporated, representing Dollar Tree. We are, I hope you all have a package. We're looking for 2 sets of non-lit letters with external lighting on the proposed building. And I'm here to answer any questions or any issues anybody has.
One moment, Judy?
Ye-
Thank you.
So, Ed, are you here for Reese Avenue?
You,
You're
no,
here for Reese.
but she's after us.
Oh, they did continue.
Who did?
Yes. Yes, they did continue.
Us?
Gorham Street. Yes, I apologize.
I saw you when we first got here.
I thought you were here for the Reese Avenue.
So Gorham Street continued.
Gorham Street is continued, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a request received today from Steve Jonkis requesting to continue to April 13th, 2015.
With that said, may I have a motion, please? Thank you, Judy.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-003 for a special permit for 812 Gorham Street to be continued to April 13th.
May I have a second?
Second?
Roll call?
Chairman Perrin,
Continue to April 13, 2015.
Member Peck,
Continue to April 13th.
Member Paglia,
Continue to April 13th.
Member McCarthy,
Continue to April 13th.
and Member Callahan.
Continue to April 13th.
Matter's been continued. Moving forward, bringing ZB 2015-10 for a special permit at 32 Reese Ave. The applicant is seeking special permit relief for Chili's Restaurant to rebrand their existing signage pursuant to Section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Hazelwood Hopkins, 2 Phoebe Way, Worcester, Massachusetts, representing Chili's in their request to upgrade and rebrand their site at 32 Reese Ave. That's in the compound with the cinema and Outback and Cross Point. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of it at first. They did receive a special permit in 2002, I believe, and we are asking to replace those signs with their current look. That would be a sign on the front elevation above the entrance, a sign on the right elevation, a second sign on the right elevation where people pick up the to-go orders, and a modification to the highway pylon sign that is in the far corner of the lot, visible from Route 3. The new signs will have LED technology. There is some exposed neon, but there is exposed neon there now, as well as at the Outback. And they're requesting to put an LED light trim on the perimeter of the building, a very small bar of light, which in fact is also similar to what the Outback has. So in essence, we believe the new proposal is just slightly less than the original proposal or the proposal that's on the building now. And we'll have less glare, will be an improvement to the property, and will update the look of the restaurant. I'm open to questions if you'd like.
Thank you. This time I'd like to open it up to the public hearing. Those in favor? Those wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Favor? That portion of the public hearing now is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Moving to the board. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions and comments. It looks the signs seem to be, well put together, using LED lighting, which is obviously favorable to the board, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Mike?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no questions. Well, I guess one question. It seems like corporations rebrand every couple of years, so I guess it's been a while since Chili's decided to update their look, which, again, I don't have any issues or concerns, and I know Development Services, as they said in their comments, reviewed the proposal, and it's essentially the same overall square footage. It's just a new look and adding the LED, which is always, as I'm sure Dennis will expound on, something that we look for in signs in the city. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I want to commend you on a beautiful package here, and I think the graphics of the rebranding are a nice enhancement.
Thank you.
I'd like to just clarify a couple things here to make sure that I have it all right, but it looks beautiful. There's a red LED edge trim that's going to be added to the building that currently doesn't exist?
Yes.
Is that correct? And is that going to be provided on 3 sides or 4 sides?
It's across the front. It's across the right elevation from front to back, let's say. And it would be on the left elevation as well, where there are no signs proposed.
So it would be just the 3 sides?
That's correct, not in the rear.
Okay, and are you removing any lighting? Because it looks like on the right elevation, there is some lighting currently over the Chili's sign. There's 3 lights that seem to be not on the new elevation, is that correct?
Oh, there are lights mounted to the building above the awnings now. And it looks, thank you for catching that, I did not. It looks like they're going to change the lighting to gooseneck. What they've got now is sort of a horizontal bar light fixture mounted to the building above each awning. So where the Chili's sign is going on the right elevation,
Right,
there is no exterior lighting.
so you'll be reducing it there, okay.
That's correct.
Okay, and so the light bar is being changed to the gooseneck, and is the gooseneck fixture an LED as well?
You know, I actually don't know the answer to that, sir, and I don't know that you would be asking about an LED bulb, is that correct?
Well, my assumption is that you're going to go to a similar color range for everything, and probably a single source like LED would be the best way to solve that. So could we make it a condition that the gooseneck fixtures will also be LED?
What's in the new gooseneck fixture is a light bulb, so yes, we could put an LED light bulb.
Okay. All right, well done. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. Van?
I have no comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Van. As always, well prepared with your
Thank you.
package, details of making the travel up here less weary without the weather. We do have one condition that you just spoke to as it relates to the gooseneck, and
Yep.
with that,
Yep, we agree to that.
okay. With that being said, may I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2015-010, special permit for National Sign Corporation at 32 Reese Ave, with the following condition, that the surface mount gooseneck fixture that is applied above the awnings at the site will receive a LED fixture.
May I have a second?
Second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Perrin,
Approve with condition.
Member Peck,
Approve with conditions?
Member Paglia,
Approved with condition?
Member McCarthy,
Approve a condition.
and Member Callahan.
Approve with conditions.
Thank you, been approved.
May I make a comment about the Cadwell Ave?
No, ma'am, that portion of the public hearing's been closed. No, ma'am, it's a violation of open meeting law. That's okay.
Something from in the hallway
Certainly can do,
about public and private streets?
you may, that portion of the hearing's been closed. Thank you. Moving on to other business, we have minutes for approval for March 9th, 2015. Have all board members been able to review? With that, any other comments? May I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for March 9th, 2015.
A second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Perrin,
Approve the meetings?
Member Peck,
Approve.
Member Paglia,
Approved.
Member McCarthy,
Approve?
Member Callahan.
Approved.
Those meetings are part of public record for approval. Any other business before us tonight? Judy? No? Moving forward, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.